What's up guys, my name's Tyler and I'm an American expat currently living in Budapest, Hungary. Now typically I like to encourage spontaneity, but recently I've been thinking about some of the things I did and some of the things I wish I'd done prior to moving internationally. Now this list is not only for people looking to move abroad, but it could also be applied for those looking to take international trips. To kick things off, let's talk about money. I remember the first time I visited Europe with my Bank of America checking card and a credit card tied to that account that I was sure I could use internationally. I mean, it was called a travel rewards card, so I thought there'd be no problem. I showed up in France and I quickly learned that while I could use the card, it had incredibly high international fees. I wasn't sure how I'd be able to get cash while I was in Europe, so very foolishly I'd purchased a money belt and I'd withdrawn something like $1,000 to carry and then convert with me. Now I do not recommend you do this. There's no reason to carry money belts and large sums of cash with you in 2022. These days, the best way to have access to international currency is to open a Charles Schwab investor checking account. Now don't get scared about the investment part. The investor checking account is simply a checking account like you'll find at any other bank. The investor checking account is free to open and it comes with a debit card which you can use internationally to withdraw foreign currency. The exchange rates are updated constantly and I've always found them to be the best available. Another huge perk of the investor checking account is that there are no international fees. So leave that money belt and that stack of cash at home and bring this little piece of plastic with you to withdraw money in that local foreign currency. Now, the investor checking account is an excellent option for withdrawing cash, but for other purchases, for example, online purchases, booking flights, booking train tickets, or even day-to-day life, you're going to want a credit card when you're traveling or living internationally. While there are a plethora of options out there, the one I found to be most useful is the Capital One Venture One card. I'll link the description below. Of course, there are cards with higher limits and more perks out there, but the Capital One Venture One card is one that should be available to most people. I've used this card to pay in Czech crown, I've used it to pay in Japanese yen, and I've of course used it to make many purchases in euro. It always gives the direct exchange rate, the best exchange rate, and there are no international fees. So much like the Schwab investor checking account, this is an excellent option when living internationally. With these two cards, you can do pretty much any sort of monetary transaction internationally, and you'll avoid paying fees. Now, to be clear, as a traveler, I'm a big proponent of using what you have and not going out and splurging on things. I live a very minimalist lifestyle. I don't have a lot of things. I'm not a very big consumer, but I'm also a big proponent of quality, of buy once, cry once. I've tried to purchase cheap things in the past, and what always ends up happening is that I end up having to replace these things just a couple of months or even weeks down the line, and I end up spending even more money for inferior quality. So before deciding to make that move abroad, I think it's wise to take an inventory of your technology. Some things to consider upgrading or purchasing prior to your move are a laptop. I just had to replace my laptop last year. It was 7 years old and it died on me. I was in a really bad position because I was living in Spain at the time, and every laptop sold in Spain has a Spanish keyboard. Also, as a general rule, consumer goods are much more expensive in other countries. For example, whereas an iPhone might cost $1,000 in the US, it will cost €1,000 in Europe. And if you're in England, it'll cost £1,000. And because these currencies don't hold the same value, you're actually paying significantly more if you decide to buy overseas. Another thing that I'm sure most of you will be interested in is a camera. Again, you're much more likely to pay less in the States, and you know exactly what you're getting. Again, you'll find the newest models and the best prices in the States, so make sure to take a look at your camera equipment before you leave. As someone who has been on several 14-hour plus flights, I can definitely recommend a good pair of headphones. And last but not least, I highly recommend purchasing some sort of e-reader. I like the Kindle Paperwhite. When you're living internationally, it can be really difficult to find books in English. And although you might not be the biggest reader back in the States, you'll likely have more time to read when you're living abroad. With an e-reader like the Kindle, you can purchase books instantaneously from anywhere. So I think it's definitely a worthy investment. Another thing that I like to recommend to people is to purchase some high quality luggage. Again, buy once, cry once. I've tried using cheap luggage in the past and it's so not worth it. Dealing with a broken handle or a broken wheel and having to drag this heavy luggage through the airport while it's making some awful screeching sound is terrible. Not to mention that if you're using cheap luggage, it's far more likely that you end up damaging your belongings. I'm a big fan of Osprey bags. They come in all shapes and sizes. They're extremely high quality and they have an incredible warranty. Also, they're American made, so definitely a lot more affordable in the US. Another thing I highly recommend you do before leaving the States is to set up a Google phone number. Now, I've been living abroad off and on for several years now, yet I've been able to maintain an American phone number for free. Most people don't know this, but you can set up a phone number through your Gmail account. With this number, you can download the Google Voice app that will allow you to receive calls, voicemails, and text messages. It's an amazing system that can be used both on Wi-Fi and mobile data for free. It's super useful because you never know when you might need to call an American line, which can be done for free with this number. Trust me, if you listen to anything I say here, download Google Voice. It's super easy and it's been incredibly useful to me. Another thing that I definitely recommend people to do before moving abroad is to start to learn the language. Now, once you arrive, you can expedite that language learning. You can truly immerse yourself. But if you wait until you arrive, you're going to put yourself at a disadvantage. You're going to put yourself into a situation that's going to feel incredibly overwhelming. Learning some simple phrases like how to ask for directions and how to say please and thank you can go a long way in easing your transition into a new country. These days, there are a multitude of online learning options, and of course, there are the more traditional routes of enrolling in a language course or purchasing some study material in hard copy. Some of the apps I recommend for learning a language are HelloTalk, on which you can chat with native speakers from all different countries. Duolingo can be good for building some basic vocabulary. Pimsleur is an audio-based method which I found really helpful when I was learning Spanish. And also ITALKI, where you can find native-speaking private tutors. Of course, these are just a few of the options and there are tons out there. So start learning today. Don't wait until you arrive to start learning that language. One last thing I recommend you do before moving abroad or for any type of long-term travel internationally is to visit a dentist. Americans are known internationally for taking care of their teeth, and that's not always the case in other parts of the world. So while there are of course dentists in other countries, things like 6-month cleanings are not always so commonplace, and as an expat or a traveler, the odds of you seeking out a dentist, oftentimes in a foreign language, are slim to none. So making sure you go visit your dentist before you take the trip, and on that note, you should probably visit your doctor as well. Make sure everything's good to go and that you're healthy before taking the leap. Now, to be clear, I've never been in a position where I'm abroad in which I can't satisfy basic needs. For the most part, no matter where you are, you can find the things you need. But when thinking back to some of my initial trips and my initial moves abroad, I do wish I'd considered these things listed here before making the move. Now, I hope you found this list helpful. Remember to like and subscribe if so. As always, feel free to reach out to me with any questions about expat living. Safe travels and see you soon.